Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back with you this week. We really appreciate all our listeners out there who can tune in each week to see what we have to say about Alabama football. Lance and I are honored that you tune in, and I want to thank Lance Shores. He steps in, he does all the great editing that makes this possible in the studio. He has great pictures and videos he puts up on our website, and he just does a fantastic job. And it's great to be back after a bye week. So today on the DC Capstone Report, in our first segment, we're going to take a review of the bye week preparation that Alabama had this past week. In our second segment, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to give you a little history of the Texas A&M Alabama connection that some of you know about, maybe some things you don't know. And finally, in our third and final segment, we're going to preview the upcoming game against the Texas A&M Aggies.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, here in our first segment, we want to take a little review of the bye week preparation. You know, Alabama usually uses the bye weeks off. This year, uncharacteristically, we have two bye weeks, one before the Texas A&M game, which is our first road test against the top 25 opponent, and then later, before our LSU game at home, we'll have another bye week. But Alabama always uses the bye week preparations in a good way. I think this has been no different. And what I've heard from the people that's been right there on the with the team and in some of the practices, you know, Alabama took an opportunity to go back and to get some of the fundamentals. Number one. Number two, they gave an opportunity to get some of their players healthy. And number three, they wanted to concentrate on some areas they could improve in the upcoming game. So as far as getting some of our players healthy, I've heard that really coming out of the bye week right now, the only player that's questionable, or the ones that know that they might be able to play, is Chris Owens, our center. He's questionable for this game with what Coach Saban called a little bit of a knee problem. So he'll go this week. Usually what the strategy is behind this and what Coach Saban's history has been, that if you can't practice by Wednesday of the game week, then you won't be able to play. That's when they put their game preparation in for the upcoming game. It's all in, installed, and ready by Wednesday. So if Chris Owens is going to be able to play, then we'll look for him to get back on the field in either today or tonight's practices and see if he has an opportunity to do that. Well, him being the only question begs the question about how is our kicker, Will Reichert, our freshman kicker. You know, I've often commented on here that I'm not comfortable with our place kicker in Bullivus. I don't think he's striking the ball well, and I'm really not comfortable in our punting in Skyler DeLong. Just not kicking very well right now. Well, Will Reichert could add a lot to this if he's able to come back. My concern is, does he come back too soon? He's had 2 weeks off with no kicking. Coach Saban said he's going to kick for the first time in practice this week, so it'll be a day-by-day decision. And I guess we'll just have to wait and find out whether he'll be ready or able to play in the Texas A&M game. If he's able to kick, do they use him on kickoffs and extra points and field goals, or will he just be available for one or the other, maybe just extra points and field goals? If he's healthy, will he kick on the punting game? I'm not sure they're going to use him on all facets of the kicking game, even if he is healthy, to try to give his leg a rest. So that might be asking a little much. But it looks like on the as far as getting better, healthy, it looks like everybody's taking an opportunity to do that. If Chris Owens can't go, I would look for them to either go to Landon Dickerson, have him slide over to the center position where he's played in several games, or the freshman Dallacourt. He's come along and played real well, so look for either one of those two to step up if Chris Owens can't go. And the other thing, I think they got back to the fundamentals, the basics. A lot of times you take these bye weeks and you begin to see, hey, where have we made some mistakes? What are our fundamentals we need to get back to? And I think making sure that we're avoiding penalties and getting back to playing disciplined football. You know, Coach Saban spoke a little bit about it today at his press conference to get back to playing discipline. And believe me, they're going to have to play discipline against Texas A&M. I believe they lost in this last game we played against Ole Miss. They lost them contained. Weren't disciplined enough to get on the outside and set the edge and allow the quarterback to run. Kelly Mond is very athletic. And so I think they've been in this bye week concentrating on discipline, staying in your position, setting the edge, and making sure that you are disciplined in the way you play. I think also getting back to the basics, it talks about fundamentals, and that's blocking. Talked to a couple of wide receivers, and they worked on their downfield blocking during the off week. Other players, hand placement, foot placement on blocking. So I think some of those fundamental skills, just another way to do in the bye week that you can't really have time to go over and over. In the bye week, you can do that. And then third and finally, I think this bye week preparation gave them an opportunity to take a look at installing the scheme that they want to play against Texas A&M. In our final segment, we're going to preview the game, and you'll hear me talk about how athletic Texas A&M is. So I think one of the things they really want to do is to be able to run a scheme that keeps contain Kelly Mond in the pocket, make him throw from the pocket, make him throw downfield. I think they're going to want to not use his legs, try to keep him from extending plays. And I think one of the things that they're trying to do is to get off the field on third down, get their defense off the field on third down. And I think being able to stop Kelly Mond extending plays is what they talked about, what they worked on in this bye weeks period. So overall, I think it was a successful bye week. You know, Coach Saban talked a little bit about today on an overall big picture, and he said there's 3 opportunities in a bye week. You got an opportunity to get better, you got an opportunity to maintain the status quo or just stay stagnant, and then you got an opportunity to regress and get worse. And he says you can't really say the whole team got better, because usually it's on an individual basis. And he saw some players take advantage of the chance to get better. He saw some players that just remained stagnant, didn't do anything different. And then he saw some players that kind of regressed and took some time off. And so overall, the players that did put the work in and put the effort in to do better will see some improvement. But there may be a drop-off or a maintaining of complacency in some of the players as well. So I think that's the opportunity that you have in every bye week, the opportunity to get better, to stay stagnant, or to get worse. And so I think Coach Saban talking about that, it's kind of sending a message to the team to, hey, these leaders that took the opportunity to get better need to teach the other ones how to do that down the road, because it will come back to bite you if you don't get better during the bye week. So that's a little bit of review of the preparation for the bye week, and I think overall it was good, and it remains to be seen as we take the field against Texas A&M this Saturday. Well, in our third segment, I want to talk about some history. I've often said we get some questions about, give us some more historical perspective, and I don't have time to do that much. This week I do have time because we didn't have a game to review and no standout players from last week. So I take this opportunity to talk about a little history. One of our listeners out there is Jeff from Sonoya, Georgia. Jeff often says, hey, throw a little history in there. I'd like to know a little bit more about Alabama. You know, when you're born and bred and you raise up on Alabama football, you think everybody knows the history of Alabama, but we're living in a culture today where there's a lot of younger people come along that don't know the history, or people who live out of state in other areas and don't really know what's going on. But there's a great history between Texas A&M football and Alabama football, and it's instilled among some players and some coaches. And one of the things that I point to is 1992 championship team was coached by a Texas A&M alumnus in Gene Stallings, and we got him to come here to the University of Alabama. He played for Coach Bryant at Texas A&M. He was a coach that coached with Coach Bryant, and he has that link to Alabama football, and his name is forever linked with the championship. In the championship plaza, you get to see the statue there of Gene Stallings. Well, he came from Texas A&M. He was a product of Texas A&M as a player, and was on a great team there. But that's not the only link to Alabama football with Texas A&M. It goes even back further to that, to none other than Bear Bryant himself. Bear Bryant, Coach Paul William Bear Bryant, was coaching at Texas A&M when he got the call to come back to Alabama. And you've all heard him story where he's told it over and over and over, where he says, well, Mama called and I had to go home. Coach Bryant was a player at the University of Alabama. He was from Moore Bottom, Arkansas. He came here as a player. He was entrenched in some of the championship teams early on, did a great job, and then he went on in the coaching ranks and moved around. Well, he eventually found himself at University of Kentucky as a coach of the football team there, when Adolph Rupp was the basketball coach. Well, a little bit of history tells you that Kentucky is a basketball school, And Coach Bryant tells the story that he found out just how much Kentucky was a basketball school. And one night, after at a banquet, they were showing some love and some accolades to the coaches, and the boosters in the basketball gave Coach Rupp a brand new Cadillac. And Coach Bryant, after 7 or 8 years on the job there at Kentucky and brought the team up into winning football, he got a gold watch. So he saw his own story tells he saw the writing on the wall there that Kentucky was going to be a basketball school. So after 8 years at Kentucky, he got the call to go to Texas A&M. Texas A&M, according to his first contract that they have on file there, paid him, I think, $12,000 to come, plus 1% of the gate receipts. And Coach Bryant took the job without ever going and looking, ever seeing anything on campus. So he got $12,000 a year to coach, plus 1% of the gate receipts when he went there. Now, when he went there, some of you out there may have heard talk about his first team called the Junction Boys. And that's where he took a full team out into the desert, out into a Texas area where nobody was, and worked really, really hard. And Gene Stallings was on that team. And it says, I've heard Gene Stallings tell a story, they took 3 buses out there, and so many people quit, they only all rode 1 bus back. And it was just a different style of football, a different style of toughness that Coach Bryant brought to the team. And I think their first year went 1-6, only won 1 game. But you could tell in that first year that he changed the culture of Texas A&M football. And then it was in 1957, after several years on the job, he had turned the culture of Texas A&M football to a point where Coach Bryant had them undefeated. Well, the story goes that he got a call from the University of Alabama, and that's when he said, Mama called to come and coach the University of Alabama. And on the eve of that undefeated play the next game, the kind of word leaked out that he was being courted by Alabama to come as their coach. And that year, the 57, the Texas A&M, it was leading the country, leading the football team in the country and undefeated, kind of collapsed around the rumors of him leaving and kind of deflated the players, as they said. Well, he often said Mama called, and that was the phone call that got him to come. Well, the truth is a little bit different behind that. Coach Bryant had been courted to come back to Alabama several years prior, and he didn't do it because that time the coach at the University of Alabama was Red Drew. And Red Drew was the coach and was a friend of Coach Bryant, so he really didn't want to come and replace him because he was such a good friend. Well, at the time in 1957, J.B. Ears Whitworth was the coach, and Coach Bryant had not had that relationship with him. And Alabama was really way down. It had lost a lot of games, and they were looking to replace him. So after shunning Alabama one time, he picks up the phone after Alabama calls, and he calls and talks to his good friend Mel Allen. Now, many of you listeners out there might know that Mel Allen, he's the voice of the New York Yankees. But what you might not have known at that time, he was also a classmate of Coach Bryant and a very good friend of Coach Bryant. And Mel Allen gave him some sage advice and some wise advice. Said, hey, this is your alma mater calling. You've already called once and turned them down. You may not get a third time. Sometimes we don't get a second time, but you may not get a third time. And that convinced Coach Bryant to come to the University of Alabama, and the rest is history. He came to the University of Alabama. He left Texas A&M, and Alabama went on to have multiple national championships under Coach Bryant. Now you know the rest of the story of the connection between the Texas A&M Aggies and the University of Alabama football programs. Well, here in our third segment, we're going to take a look at the preview of the game against Texas A&M. We all know the history. We know the great history of Coach Bryant and how he led the teams there up until 1957 Texas A&M, and how he had his only Heisman Trophy winner there in John David Crow. And then how Gene Stallings was a player on the Texas A&M team, and he came to Alabama. We all know the stories about the connections. And then now we have Coach Saban coaching the University of Alabama. We got Jimbo Fisher, one of his former coaches who coached with him at the University of LSU. So when Coach Saban was there, it's another one of Coach Saban's proteges. And so far, the proteges have never beat Coach Saban when they've coached against him. So we've got another opportunity to go out and keep his record intact against the Texas A&M Aggies this Saturday there at Kyle Field. Well, just in previewing the game, you can't start without talking about the home field advantage. Home field advantage of the 12th man is a real thing. In talking to some of the players and talking to some of the coaches, one of the loudest places to play is Texas A&M. I've had the privilege of being there and watching the game that Alabama played, and it is a loud stadium. It's going to be difficult to navigate. So when you go on the road against a top 25 team, it's just going to be a difficult place to play. So Alabama has got to weather that. They've got to show discipline, got to show toughness. They got to be able to put the noise out of their heads and play their game, and that's going to be something they're going to have to overcome. That 12th man, so to speak, there that Texas A&M talks about so much. It's real, and it's something they're going to have to get past. I think Coach Saban has talked to the players about that. So previewing the game, you've got to understand that it's going to be a hard environment to play in. It's going to be difficult to play. And Alabama's got to come out ready to play, hitting on all cylinders. Well, as I've said, in every game, one of the things Alabama's got to do in this game is they've got to limit their turnovers. They got to limit penalties. And they got to get off the field on third down. That's really important in this game for the defense. We've had a trouble in that in games past, especially against Ole Miss. We let their quarterback extend the play. So in this game, one of the things we've got to do is we've got to set the edge. We've got to keep Kelly Mond in the pocket, make him throw the ball downfield from the pocket, and let our edge rushers and our defensive line put some pressure on him, and don't let him run all over the field. We've got to watch the design runs that he has and try to keep him contained so that he doesn't beat us with his legs. He doesn't extend plays. We've got to get off the field on third down. I think we need the opportunity to turn to make some turnovers in this game. I think Texas A&M has shown in the past their history here that they can turn the ball over, and I think it's an opportunity for us to make some turnovers, to force some turnovers in doing that. I think Texas A&M has an advantage here in the kicking game. They got a great kicker and a great punter. They got an opportunity to really give us some trouble in the kicking game. They have only had, I think, 2 or 3 kickoffs returned all year because their kicker kicks it out of the end zone. They have a good kicker that can kick field goals. They have a great punter. And he often outkicks his coverage. So I think in this game, Jalen Waddle, a Texas native, is a player to watch. He has an opportunity to make a difference in this game. He's not been out in front of the offense on a lot of games, and this game is a chance for him to shine because the punter out kicking his coverage is going to be a dangerous thing against Jalen Waddle. So if he has an opportunity to take one back, I think he could be a player to watch in this game. Also in the offense, he works in the offense as well. I think if we come out in the offense and we establish the run, as we did against Ole Miss, averaging over 6.9 yards a carry, we come out and do the same thing against this team. And then we throw the ball on I believe they're going to be watching for the slants. So I think there may be an opportunity in this game to go deep. So I wouldn't be surprised for us to hit a deep ball for a touchdown in this game. Wouldn't be surprised for us to hit a slant just because we've got such great players that can do that. So I think we established the run. We hit the ball deep a couple of times. This game could get out of hand early. But the one thing that could keep them in the game is their defense and the crowd noise and momentum. Momentum is a big thing when you're playing, especially at home, and I think that Texas A&M has an opportunity to feed off of that passion, that momentum of their fans. So don't discount that too much. I believe playing on the road at Texas A&M is a difficult place, and if you give them opportunities to increase that momentum, they'll take advantage of it. What do we have to do on defense? Well, I think on defense we got to contain, we got to rush the edge, we got to set the containment. We can't let Kelly Mond beat us with his legs. And we got to defend the passes when he throws the balls up. He's going to be playing, folks, with the same wide receivers he had last year. They all got a year experience. They played Alabama before. He's got experience playing Alabama. So they're going to come ready. Texas A&M is no slouch. They probably are the only team in quite some time, I think, outside of Tennessee back in 2012 that have played 2 number 1 teams. They played Clemson with their number 1, and they're going to play Alabama when they're number 1. So Texas A&M has had a tough schedule, but they have played really well in games. So I think they're only giving up 300-something yards a game on defense. So we're averaging over 500, so something is going to give in this game. Well, I think that Alabama comes out. I think they weather the first quarter. I think they have an opportunity to make some plays, and I wouldn't be surprised to make some plays downfield. So I think that Texas, much like Ole Miss, has an opportunity to score some as well, especially if they run so many plays against our defense gets tired late in the game, they could score some. So I predict Alabama wins this game. I think it's a great victory for us against a top 25 team on the road. And when it's all said and done on Saturday at Kyle Field, Alabama comes off a victory. And Alabama 52, Texas A&M 28. Well, that's all for the DC Capstone Report today. We thank you all for listening in. Look forward to seeing some of your comments and as you view this. And don't forget to check out Lance's pages at RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com for some great insight. If you love our podcast, like us on Facebook. And if you have an opportunity to check that out and share it with some of your friends as well. Well, until next time, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report, signing off.